everyone, how's it going? In this video I'm going to talk about the very, very sad Idaho murders. Those 4 innocent victims that were stabbed to death multiple times, losing their life. And I'm gonna give my theory of what I think. I read this and I didn't know this. Bryan Kohberger visited Idaho Student Union before murders and was the type to stare. Students say Bryan Kohberger, who attended another university as a grad student in Washington State, was occasionally seen on campus during the fall 2022 semester. But 3 different students tell people that they believe they saw Kohberger at the Student Union building on the Idaho campus in the weeks before the murders, and that they later recognized him after he was arrested for the murders. Here's my theory. Because, how did he know that the house where these victims lived off campus, I think there's a total of 6 roommates. 5 were women, 1 was a guy. How did he know that? How didn't he know that it was a house full of male college students, or who, had guns, had like a Rottweiler, a couple of Pitbulls? How did he know the inside of the house? I think, honestly, that he was in that house before. I think that he met one of the roommates there when he was, I don't know why he was going to Idaho. Maybe they were parties or something. But I think he met one of the victims, one of the roommates who lived in that house, and started a friendship that he wanted to go further, or he hooked up, had sex with one of the roommates, and he wanted to go further and they didn't want to. Because how would he know? Even if you stalked a place, which I haven't heard anything about him stalking the place, but you still don't know who all lives there. Even if you knew that 3 women lived there, or 4, you don't know if there's like 2 to 4 guys that live there. You don't know what kind of dogs they have. All he had was a knife. He didn't have a gun. All he had was a knife. Apparently. So yeah, he had to have been in that house before. Either he had a friendship with one of the roommates, or he hooked up, had sex with one of the roommates. Maybe even one of the victims was one. Because you just don't, I just don't see, even if you stalk a house, you still, what if like a few of the male roommates that live there, they went on a vacation for a month. I mean, wouldn't neighbors or anyone say that from an entire 2 months, we've seen this vehicle parked outside the home or whatever? But still, the dog thing, and it's going to a place where where I could get mauled to death. So he knew there's a dog there, they had a dog. But I don't think it was like those violent protective dogs. Like a Rottweiler or Pitbull. A lot of people love Pitbulls. They're friendly and they can be very protective. They'll maul. Anyways, he had to have been in that house before. But I'm a big true crime fan, and this is just so, there's no forced entry. When there's cases of a murder and there's no forced entry, either the victim, or if there's multiple victims, one of them let the person in, or the other person had a key. Police said there's no forced entry. That's amazing. The victims were stabbed multiple times. When it's like overkill, that means that the murderer knew the victim and they wanted them not only to die but to suffer. Apparently there was multiple stab wounds, blood all over the walls. So this was personal, which means that this Bryan Kohberger knew at least one of the victims. Because if you think about it, what's the motive? What was his motive? He had to know at least one of the victims, or one of the roommates, because 2 survived. And another thing, there's no screaming. I mean, 2 of the victims, or all 4 of the victims, were sleeping, one on the 3rd floor, or 2 were in the same bed on the 3rd floor, and 2 were in the same bed on the 2nd floor. But yet no screaming, not even one person, even while you're being like stabbed. If I was sleeping and someone started stabbing me, I would wake up and start yelling. No roommates said they heard any screaming. One of the roommates said she heard someone like softly crying and a man saying, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you." And what? But yeah, No forced entry, stabbed multiple times. Those cases are usually where the victim knew their killer and they let them in to their apartment or their house. So I don't know how this guy got in, no forced entry. Yeah, I think this Kohberger, Bryan Kohberger, had sex with one of the roommates, or formed a friendship with one of the roommates, and he wanted to take it further, and she was like, I just want to be friends, and he just snapped. And this is another thing, I don't get this. At 11:58 a.m. when the police were finally called, the murders happened like between 4:25 a.m. and like 4:50 a.m. The person called 911 and said, "We need an ambulance. Someone's unconscious." Who was unconscious? Who? What are you talking about, unconscious? If you walk into a room where people have been stabbed multiple times and there's blood all over the walls and all over them, they're covered with it, their hair, why would you call 911 and say, we need an ambulance, someone's unconscious? There's a big difference between obvious murder scene, so horrific that it would be like watching a horror movie. If you walked into a scene in a horror movie where someone was just brutally murdered, would you go, 911, someone's unconscious? What? I'm not blaming the roommate who called and said that, but I would have been like, we need police, we need ambulances. We found our roommates, they're stabbed multiple times, blood everywhere. I would have been going nuts, crying. We need 911, someone's unconscious. Anyways, I'm not trying to make fun of that roommate who called. But that's my theory. That's the only thing that really makes sense. I didn't know that he went to the campus of Idaho sometimes for some reason. I guess it's less than 10 miles from his university. That's what they said. He goes to Washington State, or went to Washington State. 2 weeks prior, interview for a good, he wanted to be like a police officer or something with the law on. Yeah, he just threw everything away. But yeah, that's my theory. He became friends with one of the roommates that lived there, or he had sex with one of them, and he wanted a relationship, and they were just like, no thank you. I heard they had a lot of parties there. But people would have said they seen Bryan Kohberger. He kind of stands out. Anyways, please subscribe, and everyone, take care. Peace and love.